there, welcome back to Manward in the Field, Not in the Field edition. I'm Alex.
I'm Andy.
And today we are expanding on what we talked about last week. So we're going to get into one of the best ways to invest on the planet. It's a tool that should be in every investor's toolbox. It is very exciting, and if people understood how they worked, they'd be as excited as we are today to talk about options.
Yes, this is a really interesting topic. You know, you go to a construction site, right? If you went there and you saw everybody walking around just carrying a hammer, you didn't see any saws, you didn't see nails, you didn't see, scaffolding, you just saw everybody holding a hammer, you'd be a little concerned about what in the world they're going to build. But yet that's the average investor. That's the way the average person invests these days. They buy stocks and they hold them for a long time. Or they buy stocks and they hold them for a little bit of time and try to trade in and out. But with options, something like almost 20 million contracts trade a year. So these things can't be bad if all the big boys, all the hedge funds, all the insurance companies, all these companies are using options to make money. Everybody needs to know why options are so important and how they can use them, regardless of their strategy, risk versus conservative, whatever. Everybody needs to be using options.
We're going to actually spend a couple of videos here talking about options and kind of dispelling some of the myths, some of the misunderstandings about options. But I think a lot of people, especially novice traders, when they look at options or they think about it, they just are like, that's something for the people on Wall Street. So myth or fact, options are only for pros.
It's a myth. I got a good lesson in this many years ago. The first time I ever met my wife's grandfather. They live on a big ranch out in North Dakota. And one day at lunch, we were talking, and he was talking about options contract. He was going to go talk to his broker. So here's this little rancher out in North Dakota doing this, and he was doing it to make his livelihood, but make it more conservative, hedging and that sort of thing. And it was not hard at all. And it's as easy as going into your broker's platform, just like you would buy a stock. You can go out and buy an option. Very simple, but most folks simply don't know how to do it because all they've been told so far is that they need to carry a hammer to invest. And with options, you can add a very powerful tool to your toolbox.
Well, let's hammer away at some of that ignorance. So real quick, let's get into the very, very, very basics of options. We'll talk about strategies in another video. You've mentioned options. You've mentioned contracts. For those who don't know, every option or options contract represents what?
So when you buy an options contract, you're buying the right to buy or sell 100 shares of that stock if a certain price is hit by a certain time.
So one options contract equals 100 shares, potential shares of a company.
Yeah, and it gives you control over those 100 shares that you can either buy or not buy if you want. It's not your obligation if that future price is hit. If you wanted to go buy shares, Ford's probably not a great example, but it's an example I always use. It's right around $9. So to go out and control directly 100 shares of Ford, you'd have to spend $900. Not terrible, but if you get into a stock that's $200-300, then you're getting into some high price territory.
Amazon, a stock that's in the thousands.
But if you go out and buy that Ford option, you can control 100 shares for just $9. So $900 versus $9. You can start to see where that power comes in. So you take that $9, let's call it $10 just for rounding, put that on the table. The worst that you could do if you lose 100% of your money is lose that $10. And the best that you could do is you could turn that 10 into $20, $30, $40, $50 pretty easily. So there's some big opportunity there. But the main thing is with one contract, you can control a whole bunch of shares. It's back of the napkin math. Super easy to do.
My first exposure to options was a friend had actually gotten me an options workbook. It was about the size of a telephone book. And I looked at that thing and it scared me off of options for about 2 years.
Totally not necessary.
By the time I actually traded my first option, I was, like, oh, this is actually just a couple clicks of the mouse. It is not that much more complicated than buying or selling a stock. All right. So myth or fact, it is hard to create an options account.
That's a myth. Yes, you have to go on the platform and fill out a form, but it's super easy. Everybody can get, level 1 options account.
You can get set up to trade options in about as much time as you would be paying an energy bill online. It's really not that complicated. All right, so here's another one. Myth or fact, most investors lose money on options.
That's a myth, and that's a big myth. So that's one that I think keeps most investors from jumping into options. This one's dangerous. It's a rumor that's on the web. It's sort of based in a fact, but not really. Not if you understand the numbers. So the truth is about 55 to 60% of option positions are closed prior to their expiration. So what that means is people are sitting on a profit, maybe a loss, and they close those contracts. They go off the market. They're taking their gains before the contract expires. And again, we'll get into exactly what that means down the road. But 10% of those options are exercised. That means the trader actually takes the right to buy or sell. So that's a small fraction. And that's what really worries people is they think they bought, the right to control 100 shares of Ford, that they're going to have to take 100 shares of Ford and put out that $900 or whatever to do that. And only 10% of options are actually exercised. So that's key to understand. And then about 30% of the options actually expire worthless. So we go from that 90 to 80% are expiring worthless down to really 30%. Somebody's losing money on them, but it's pennies, and they're more speculative bets, really betting for something big. So to think that 90% of options are costing somebody money, that's a huge myth, and it's dangerous. It keeps people out of options and making the smart decisions.
So I think I know the answer to this one. It's a pretty easy final question here. So myth or fact, every investor can and maybe should invest in options and add that to their toolkit.
I like your question. That's an absolute fact. Every investor should be using options in some form. At the very least, they need to understand how to use options, and when the chance arises, they should know how to take advantage of it, and they should take advantage of options.
Well, good. So I hope you paid attention to and enjoyed our discussion today, because like I said, in our next video, we're going to take a deeper dive into the mechanics of options and some of the terminology that are used. Until next time.
Cheers. I hope you enjoyed today's video on options. As you can see, I'm very passionate about the subject, and I know these are very powerful, useful tools for every investor. So next time we're going to talk much more on what options are, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you're alerted to the next video when it comes out. And if you want our option strategies right away, go down below and sign up for Man Word Digest. It's free. You'll love it. It talks all about investing strategies and everything you need to know.